Phil, we're here. We are finally live. And for those who are watching, we're trying some new software today, so bear with us. We're going to be using StreamYard today. Phil,
never wear a white shirt.
Phil is enjoying.
When you got a light background.
Phil is enjoying the background. So today we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about luck because people think luck is just
everything.
Luck, and then we're going to talk about planning because you can't have luck without planning. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story, and it comes from Coach Fisher Deberry back in 1989.
You knew him a little bit.
Yeah, well, he had some great words of wisdom for his young players, and the best one is that luck is created when preparation and hard work meet opportunity. Yeah. A lot of coaches have said but there's nothing more true than that. And so I got another baseball. I lived baseball for 15 years of my life with my children. And I learned what that really meant, right? Because when a young person steps into the batter's box, you can tell who's put the hard work and preparation in, and they're creating luck with the opportunity for the pitcher that's coming across the plate. Yeah. If you are running a business, I'm going to ask you to live lucky, right? I'm going to ask you to start doing the work. I wish.
Oh,
Black Clover, if you just sponsor us, we love your stuff. Got it at Nordstrom's. My wife got it for me for our anniversary. So something you need to think about as an entrepreneur and a business person is, how do I create luck in my life? One of the things we forget, and this is something we're going to hammer on just because my life as a young kid was so jacked up with losing my dad, is that my family didn't create the luck they could have created at the time. And Phil is an expert on succession planning, how to together the right agreements to get your business in a safe place if something happens to you. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Phil. I'm going to put my hat on. I'm going to live lucky.
No pressure here.
And I'm going to drink some coffee and learn from the wisdom of Phil.
Well, the first thing I want to say is congratulations, Jesse. 22 years.
22 years,
of marriage to a beautiful lady. The only flaw she has is that she must be like legally blind or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
They're like Ken and Barbie here. They both wonderful people. But congratulations, and more importantly, just what a great thing. But yeah, succession planning is a big deal, and I think succession planning means different things to different people. It'll mean different things to different advisors that you talk to, depending on what part of the process they specialize in. But what I want to talk about is just overall as a privately held company, when you're ready to transition, whether that's retirement, if that's selling of your business, there might be a merger with a competitor or a strategic partnerships, whatever it may look like, what's the thought process you need to go through. And I think, one of the things that Dave and I have always talked about is, let's say you're wanting to sell the business, you're wanting to transition. Of course, many small business owners, the dream is to have their children come in and continue the legacy and continue the business. Very rarely does that happen. I have 4,872 kids. I have one that possibly wants to do something in business. So
maybe.
so you just never know, if that's going to work. And so that's not a real plan. That's a dream. That's a hope. That's a wish. That's all those things. So I think, you've got to start planning years before you're ready to do it if you're going to have a successful succession plan. I think that's another area that people really mess up on. They wake up one day, they're burnt out, they're tired, they're frustrated, or they're just have made plenty of money. They're ready to go retire and spend every day with their spouse or their loved ones or whoever and doing whatever it is they love to do. Don't do that, because when you do that, cost yourself significant money in the sell. So you've got to really think through the process. We like to say 5 to 7 years out. Prior to when you think you want to go is when you should start really thinking about these things, planning these things. Now, for all my friends out there in the insurance business right now that are saying that think buy sells is all you need to do for a good succession, that's a piece of it. That's a part of it. That's a tool, and it is something you need to do. There's no doubt about that. Estate planning, that's a piece of it. That's a part of it. That's a tool. That is definitely something you need to do. But it's made up of multiple things. You got to look at tax strategies. You got to look at, at the end of the day, too, the biggest thing is you got to look at, can you live with it once you've sold it? So what I mean by that is, can you live with what you sold it for? Can you live with who acquired it? Because you're essentially handing over one of your children to new parents when this happens. And so you've got to really think those things through and make sure that your thought process is good. I've sold small businesses that we have built and taken through the life cycle of a business, and I've felt great about it. And I've sold business that I just wanted to have away from it, and for whatever reason. It wasn't because it was a bad business. It wasn't because it was anything like that. It was simply because it was I sold Jennifer's comment.
You knew her answer.
Yeah.
That was easy.
So, but I've sold business because maybe personalities didn't connect, or if there were partners in groups. If you haven't picked up on it by now, I like to own minority interest in companies as investments, and sometimes those things go away from being what should be a passive investment. Next thing you know, you're running the darn thing. Dave's laughing at me.
24/7, 365, and complaining every minute of it.
Dave's laughing at me because he got to watch me for a year and a half. I used to have a full head of hair.
You did,
yeah.
And you looked like, Phil's only 25.
Yeah, I look 25. I mean, I'm 25. I look damn good for 80, but so there's all these things you got to think about. The number one piece of advice I give everybody is start planning 5 to 7 years out. Start thinking about it. Obviously, buy-sell agreements, you want to do those. You have partners, or if you don't, you want to make sure you have all of that in order many moons before that. Everybody that owns a business should do a comprehensive, holistic estate plan. There's no doubt about that. But you've also got to involve your CPAs, your accountants, your attorneys, your bankers, your investment advisors. If you're selling it and you don't have a natural market, meaning somebody that just approaches you or somebody that you can approach, you're going to probably get involved with business brokers or with somebody that's going to help you sell that business, right? Real estate agents, if you own property. So there's a lot of moving parts, and that's one of the reasons why Dave and I have one of the offerings that we have is virtual family office, is that we help people walk all of that out. We're your quarterback. We make sure everything's getting done when it's supposed to get done. We bring in the professionals, do those things when need to if we don't have them in house. And so it's a big time thing. It's tough for businesses to get to the second and third generation of family ownership. And we've talked about a few of those reasons, but it's something that everybody's got to think about.
Let's talk about this. Phil's given you basically the recipe that you need to follow to get there. Now, here's the question that you need to think about. What happens if you don't do any of this? Well, I'll tell you what happens. Your dad dies in front of you. You have a multi-million-dollar family business that the employees that are not so nice and are selfish take from your family, and you lose everything. And more importantly, it's simple trust. Let's just start simple trust. If you don't have a simple trust set up right now and something happens to you or your spouse, you're going to give the government, a bunch of money. You're going to go through probate, which is an absolute nightmare. I am speaking from experience. Set the trust up. Set these things up. It doesn't cost hardly anything. If you don't know where to go, shoot us a note and ask us. We can help you. There are very cost-effective ways to set up a trust for less than $15 million, right? $15 million, right?
Yeah, and you don't have to be a business owner for this.
No, not at all.
Trust work, wills, pour over, all these types of things are so critical to a successful transition. Let's say you have jobs, you're W-2 employees, and
you're an airline pilot.
Whatever the case may be.
There's some airline pilots under today, so.
So you need to do these kind of things. If you don't, the old saying in the business is, if you don't have a plan, the government will give you one.
Well, and with the new tax law out, it's gonna be brutal.
But right now, I think invest 30 minutes of your time and do some research. Like Dave said, if you have questions, call us. We're happy to point you in the right direction, help you if we can, but for sure get you pointed in the right direction. But I think this is a topic that small business owners, mid-sized business, any privately held company, they have to deal with. And people always assume that if folks that have businesses, they've taken care of this, that's just flat not true. Most people don't like talking about things like this. It creates uncomfortable conversations. It can create uncomfortable conversations with business partners, with family members, with children. You got to address things, right? You might have, if you have 3 kids, you might have 2 of them that work in the business and 1 that doesn't. Well, how are you equitably going to transition that business over and treat the 3 children equitably if that's what your goal is? Now, we've had clients over the years. I had a client years ago that brought an office and he was worth about 30, 40 million bucks. Was a car dealer. And he looked me dead in the eye and says, I don't want my kids to get a penny. How do I do that? Now,
what did his kids do?
That's one extreme, right? Then I've had clients that have called me in and said, we've got 5 kids. 1's in the business. The other 4 aren't. And oh, by the way, 2 of our kids have addiction problems. And we're scared what's going to happen if they get all this money. So this isn't an easy thing. You get into adoptions of children. You get into, Tanya and I can speak to that. There's, our running joke with our children by birth has always been every time we'd adopt a kid, and sorry, buddy, your estate just got a little smaller, because they're all our children, right? So it's a, there's not a one size fits all. Your situation is very unique to you, it needs to be treated as such. But you've got to start walking it out and acting on it now, because to Dave's point, if you don't plan, you need to plan when you don't need it. That way it's in place and you're thinking clearly when you're setting everything up, right? You know how you're going to do this. You might have a small business or just a privately held business and realize that the best person to be the next leader of the organization is an employee.
Yep.
Somebody inside the organization. We've got a client in California that years ago had 4 children, all very successful people. 2 of them worked in the business. None of them was the father's choice to carry on leadership of the company because they had an employee that was better qualified. And I'm going to tell you, that guy's a unicorn. Most people don't have the moxie to make that decision for the business and for the employees to skip over their own children. Now children still had ownership. They still, but they were not the CEO of the company once he transitioned.
Well, I think Matt brought that up. He asked the question: how do you expect your children to lead the company if they haven't grown up with the struggles? And I think it's important as a parent and as a leader that we make them go through those struggles, right? They don't walk into the C-suite their first day at work.
Well, I think
you surround them with people to protect them, right?
Yeah, Matt's one of my oldest and dearest friends. We grew up together. When I say we grew up together, we built rafts together, float down creeks when there were floods. That's how long we've known each other. So we've known each other for years. But Matty knows this. Matt's father and mother were both entrepreneurs. Matt's been an entrepreneur for years. Owns 2 companies now. You've heard me talk about Matt. Dave had one of the smartest guys I know in the whole world.
I love him. He's
just a genius. But anyway, Matt, to your point, you and I grew up, we always had to work, right? No matter what it was, we were working. And I think that one of the things that was built in our generation was that kids could work when they were young. Now we live in a society where there's laws that a kid can't go get a job till they're 16 legally.
They can't get a W-2 job.
Correct. But that greatly reduces the opportunities for kids to go out and learn how to take direction from other people and how to sacrifice going to something that would be fun with their buddies because they have a responsibility at their work. So a lot of those opportunities are gone. Where Matt and I grew up, if you were a young man and some of the girls, then you worked on hay crews. You were hauled hay. But the invention of big round bells pretty much eliminated that opportunity for kids to go work in the Midwest or in places where agriculture is big. I think the chances to me, the chances of the odds of kids successfully leading a company without the benefit of the struggles they're not as good as somebody who has, right? I think it can still happen. It depends on the individual, and it depends on how they're brought into the organization, like Dave said. We've got a client in Oklahoma City that their son, the owner of the company, brought their son in. The son was out in the world working for other people, brought their son in. His first job was he worked on the shop floor. And I mean, he took a pay cut, but he worked on the shop floor, and he did that for like a year and a half. It wasn't like they made him do it for 2 weeks and then made him a vice president. I mean, he did it for a year and a half, out just a laborer on the shop floor. I think his next job was he got a big step up. He did something like welder's helper or something, and then he just kept stepping up. Now he's the CEO and he owns majority share of the company. He has a brother that came in later in the business, and they immediately made him over sales. And the results were very different between the two, right? Now, both great guys, both smart, but there's something about that sweat equity, that learning, that struggle, as Matt talks about it. I just saw Matt's comment. My heir apparent told me, I see the stress you live under. No way. We get that, brother. And I think this generation of our kids' age, Matt and I's kids' ages, which is in their 20s and 30s, that generation's looking for different stuff. And that's why there's going to be this vacuum we believe there's this vacuum that's going to occur with privately held companies and succession planning, and how do they move to these next things. I think it's going to have to be to competitors, an employee in the company. You're going to have to work harder, I think, to find a good successor and somebody to buy your businesses, because the generation below us are not driven by the same things we were driven by. Our generation was driven by. They're just not. And so it doesn't mean they're wrong. It's different.
Well, let's be honest. We've created that.
Sure.
Let's have a dad and mom talk right now. Okay, and I'm as guilty of it anyway. I'm going to go back to my 14-year life. When I was 14, I was the most spoiled, rotten kid in the world. Right? I lost everything like that. And guess what? That stress thing here, that immediately fell on my shoulders because I didn't know what I was going to do. Yeah. So you either die or you thrive. You figure it out. So we as parents can push our kids and give them a responsibility that we owe to them to raise them to have some kind of ethic or not. And in some senses, I failed in some areas. And I kind of told my son before he went to college, look, bud, there's people out there that aren't willing to work today. If you want to be successful, you got to put in the work. That's all I'm going to tell you, just like sports. Yeah. So what I would offer to parents, if you have children, especially if they're younger, is give them opportunities to work and fail and push them a little bit and not be as much their friend, be more their parent. I know we have a problem in our house where we're too friendly with our kids sometimes, so I'm guilty of it. But if we want to solve that generational problem, then we have to do something. I don't know if you saw the Sheikh of UAE recently. He posted the thing talking about how he rode a camel to go to work, and now his son drives a Ferrari or whatever, and his grandson's going to be riding a camel back to work because he didn't have the work ethic, right? Yeah. He sees it. I mean, this happens. This is real. Yeah. So it's up to us to responsibly mentor and grow our families the right way. And if we don't, well, we get what we get.
Well, I just saw Matt, you got some great questions today. How do you break the wealth dilemma? Granddad starts with nothing and has nothing to lose. So just say, hey, let's go try this.
We got it.
What are we going to lose? Our time. Let's go try it, right? Then the next generation has something to lose, but still has to work. And then the next generation's wealthy and has no motivation to risk.
Yep.
And I think that's a legitimate question, and it's a tough one to answer. I still think it comes down to personalities and individuals. I think it'd still be overcome. But it's a real world problem. Hence the reason why we always have to explain to our clients what we said earlier. Very few companies make it to the second and third generation. And it's a unicorn that makes it to the fourth generation. I mean, they just don't happen very often, right? So, and if they do happen, they're usually not any more small, mid-sized businesses. By now, they're usually publicly traded monsters, that still have family involved. The Ford company, and Henry Ford started it and just kept going from there. But I don't know, and again, Matt and I know each other. I mean, we're like brothers. I mean, we know each other's stories. We know each other's personal lives very, very well. And I think there's Matt, you and I both know that there's, in our lives, we've seen our parents struggle. We've seen them succeed. We've seen all of that, right? And then our lives, we've experienced it where we've struggled, we've succeeded, we've struggled again, then we've succeeded again, and that's part of it. And so now we're sitting there looking at this next generation. One of my kids told us, he said, I'm not really worried about it because I know I've got you guys to fall back on. And that scared the bejesus out of me, because what he's really saying is, well, if I go do this and it doesn't work, I can just come to you and you'll bail me out.
Nice.
I mean, he wasn't meaning it as he was being honest. I mean, but that hits Matt's question.
That's true.
Spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, well, even if I do risk it, what am I really risking? As to where you and I've talked about this, real pressure is, having $1 million payroll this month and having $900,000 in the bank. That's real pressure.
Yeah.
That's real pressure. I mean, so, I don't know if it's going to be obviously on this podcast, Matty, but it's something that's definitely real. And I think it still comes down to, you just got to address each case one-on-one and for your own situation. And again, get wise counsel from folks that have been there, done that.
I think Aaron asked a question, define wealth, and I put in the chat, it depends, and it really depends on what your goals are and where you are in life, because what wealth is to one person certainly isn't wealth to another person. I'll say, defined for me, wealth. Yeah. Wealth is a strong family with the ability to care for each other and not have to worry about paying bills or having money in the bank. I mean, I think that's wealth to me at this point in my life. My definition of, and I want to say this real quick for Aaron. Dave, you haven't met Aaron. He's a young entrepreneur. Nice.
Him and his father just started a building construction trade business. They do great work. So I give a shout out to Aaron Rooney and his dad. Great people. We wanted to use them, but our timelines wouldn't work on our project. We met, and they're first class people. But Aaron, for me, my definition of wealth changed in 2008. Prior to 2008, I had what I would call the very normal definition of wealth, money. How much money do I have? And then Tanya and I unfortunately lost our oldest son by birth to a sudden illness when he was 16 years old. And literally in a second, my definition of wealth became, is everybody present that I love. If everybody's present, if everybody's here, if everybody's healthy, you're rich. I know that's corny. I know that a lot of people say that. I'm just telling you, those people that know me know that is 100% what I believe. But it changed. And I think people's definition of wealth does change. People always say, well, it's easy for you to talk about money because you got some.
That's true. It's not about money until it is. Phil.
Well, the reality is this. Yeah, that's right. It's not about money until it's about the money. But the reality is this. On June 21st, 2008, I would have given every penny, every asset, everything I had for my boy to be okay, and none of that mattered. So what's wealth really? What is it really? Right? So I think you've got to figure that out for yourself, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's going to change over time. I think what you think wealth is when you're launching a business, when you're building a business, wealth might be, I just want to be able to pay my mortgage while I'm trying to get this business off the ground, right? That could be wealth.
Well, how many young people leverage themselves to the hilt to have the big house and the Mercedes and the Porsche and then you create a different challenge. So I think it's important to have that discussion with your family to determine where you want to be in 30 years, because we're playing long ball here. This is not, you don't get rich overnight. You don't get wealth overnight. You don't get where you want to be overnight. It takes step and smart decisions along the way. to get to where you want to be. And that's what we talked about planning today, because the plan you build right now pays huge dividends in the future, whether it's an investment plan, your estate plan, your succession plan, your buy-sell agreements. Every day you're planning to move out to retirement.
Yeah, and your family plan, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
great.
I think one of the things that we talk about with our family office operation is a family constitution. What's important to our family? What are our key values? What's our draw a line in the sand? No matter what, these are the things that bond us as a family. I think you've got to be really honest and self-aware when you're doing these things. I think too, when people talk about planning, and we've been focused on business because that's what we want to talk about today, but there's 7 key areas in life you got to look at, right? And I'm not going to remember them all off the top of my head, but it's your business, it's your relationships, it's your faith, it's your health, it's all these types of things. You got to have a holistic approach to succession planning. Because if you let's say you started a business with $10,000 and 20 years later you sell it for $20 million. Okay, first of all, God bless you on capital gains, but after that, but after you pay the capital gains tax, hopefully do it before 2023. But after you do that, now you got to live with it. And I can't stress that enough. We had a meeting with a client this Monday, and we're talking about some I love that, Matt. To me, wealth means you make stupid decisions without consequences. That's a pretty good definition, my brother.
I'm not going to share that with my wife. I make plenty of stupid things. There's always consequences there. So.
I call that bleep money. When you can do what you want when you want, you can make as many bad decisions as you want. It doesn't change your life. That's from a financial perspective. That is the definition of real rich, of real wealth, right? But my point being is that you got to be self-aware, and you got to be able to live with it. We were meeting with our client this week, talking about our potential partnership with some folks. I started throwing scenarios out that, saying, "Kid, you live with this? How are you going to react if this happens? How are you going to react when this happens? What about when this happens?" Because it doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter until it matters. But if you do it purely for, in this scenario, for investments or partners to maybe accelerate your dream a little quicker, and you're not okay with what you're going to have to, the price you're going to have to pay for that, then don't do it, because you're going to be miserable. It's not going to be a good experience.
Here's a great point you just made, and I think people need to understand that. Only accept the risk you're willing to live with, the loss you're willing to live with.
Dave and I talk about this all the time. I told him 2 days ago, anybody that knows me close knows that the stock market just scares the daylights out of me. I apologize to all my friends that are in the investment business. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, for me personally, it's a 100% a control issue. Yeah. I'm a 55-year-old bald-headed chubby guy. I don't have 40. I know Captain America. Put the hat back on. But I'm not as risk tolerant at this stage in my life with our money than I was even 5 years ago. Again, that's going to depend on where you are in life and how old you are and all those things. But let's see. Matt says this dancing bear has got to stop the music and figure out succession, or my legacy will end with an auctioneer's hammer. Boy, Matt and I have, that's a funny statement, but it's also not funny, because Matt and I have seen this back home. As many people have. People work their whole lives, and at the end of their life, people are out there buying their stuff for pennies on the dollar.
And it's heartbreaking. It's
absolutely heartbreaking. So, Matty, give me a call. I can point you in the right direction on the succession and your legacy. Obviously, I think you know that, but you just got to make sure that you're planning it correctly. not only does that check engine light come on when you get a certain age,
things hurt you didn't know hurt.
Things hurt
weird
physically, but things can really hurt financially. They can really hurt emotionally when it comes to this topic. And, I think everybody wants to leave some kind of legacy. Hopefully it's a really positive legacy. Sometimes it involves money. Sometimes it just involves a great family name, which is invaluable. I mean, that's incredible, but we got to make sure that you're addressing whatever it is.
Yeah, I want to jump on Lee's comment because I think this is the purest definition of wealth is what you do with it, helping others that can't help themselves or are less fortunate. And I think you want to build a legacy for your family and the community, and you get to the point where you can give back, like I know Lee and her family do, and others on the show today. That is, you want to talk about wealth and having a full heart. Those are the kind of things, and I know you give and give and give and give. Those are the things that make a difference long-term for you and your family. And more importantly, if you have children and you're teaching them that now, you're building a sustainable community, which is what we need now, folks, that can thrive even through the toughest times. I know Jennifer's been on here. The co-op did a bunch of stuff for people over the freeze and everything else this winter when people were suffering. So that is what this is all about. At the end of the day, if you believe in your community, you believe in people around you, it's about doing the right things in your life so you can give back and help others when they need help.
I mean, our little sister, Jennifer, and she is our little sister, not by birth, but just she is. I mean, we're both very protective of Jennifer, but at the end of the day, what Jennifer says here, wealth for me would be ability to give away 90% and live on 10%. For those of you that don't know her, she's serious.
Oh, she does it. I mean,
that's the life she lives. I had a gentleman one time, very successful man. I know we got to wrap this up. I want to tell this story. One of the best men I've ever known in my life. And I just complimented him one day. We were having lunch one-on-one, and he was my father's age. And I really looked to him as like a bonus dad, because he was just one of the true great people I've ever met. And he says, that's a true statement. Yeah. Sometimes he gives more than that, Lynn does about Jennifer, and she knows Jennifer well. But I complimented him on all his giving. And he looked at me and he goes, that's not a big deal. He says, I give out of excess. He said, the people you should be impressed with are the people that have no money and give anyway.
Yeah.
And that really hit me. I think, Dave knows, you got I love the people that give a check and they call the newspaper so they can shake the hands when they do it.
Yep.
Probably the thing I'm most proud of is there's not a picture in the world of anything Tanya and I've ever done.
True.
And I'm just not, and that's okay, I guess. But I think, it's a lot like if you join a civic group. And I've heard people say, I'm going to join the civic group because there's a lot of prospects for me there.
Yeah.
Well, no,
this conversation yesterday was
join the civic group because you believe in the cause and you want to help the civic group. If you do those things, all that other stuff will take care of itself, right? So I think, for me to put a bow on this from my perspective, Dave, I'll give you the last word. It's plan early, be honest about it, have the difficult conversations with those loved ones that you need to get their input and that also need to know what you're doing. And then when you do transition, when you do execute on that succession plan, you're going to feel good about it, and you're going to be confident about your decisions, and it's going to be a good thing. If you don't do those things, it's a thing that can wreck you, to be quite honest. We've seen it.
Phil, I want to thank you for everything you shared today with everybody,
Sure.
because this is important stuff, and it will change your life if you're smart about it. So if you guys need anything ever, please reach out. You can reach on social media. You can send us an email, call us on telephone, smoke signals, however you communicate, we'll figure it out. With that, prepare.
Yeah.
Be ready for the opportunity when it arises. With that, Dave and Phil, we are out of here.